All right, let's go over what async and await actually do. Now, everyone knows if you have an async function inside, you get to use await. So you can wait for things like fetch or any other promises. Okay, that's cool and all. Let's actually dive deeper into this. If I comment this out and I just have this async function definition and I call it, what do you think it returns? Remember, a normal function with no return statement returns undefined. An async function with no return statement returns a promise that resolves to undefined, like this. See, undefined. If you return anything, return 5, and then we call test. It's a promise that fulfills or resolves into 5. Okay, that's cool and all. Let's uncomment this. Then down here, I'm going to console.log global scope. Now, I call test here. What do you notice about these console logs? Well, you should notice that this function, even with async, it's synchronous. And we know it's synchronous because we call it and it ran everything inside, and then it exits and then runs the global scope. If this was truly async, it will call itself, sees that all of these are async, exit, checks the global scope, console.logs global scope, then it goes back and console.logs 1, 2, 3, 4. So once again, async does not make a function asynchronous. But what does? Well, actually, what does is the keyword await. And you can await anything, await a function, an array, an object, a number. Let's see what it does. Now, you see that's different? So when we call test, it says, oh, this is still synchronous. I'm going to run 1 and 2. 1 and 2. But then why does it run global scope? That's because inside of async, whenever it sees an await statement, if I put it here, what it does is that it will take the code after await and whatever is above the first await and says, hey, all these codes are synchronous, run them in order. But whatever's after the first array, even if after that you have another await, it will still be asynchronous. So if I console.log 5, let's go over this. We call it, these are synchronous. So 1, 2, 3. These two lines are asynchronous. So what happens when JavaScript says something is asynchronous? Well, it goes to a JavaScript engine and it pushes all of the async calls or assignments or whatever line you want into what's called a event loop. So when you call it, it sees, yo, console log 4 and console log 5 are async. So what does that mean? It means when it gets to line 13, this function will exit itself at line 17, then checks under it to see if, hey, is there any other stuff I have to do? And yes, console.log global scope. So it does that. Then it checks again. It says, is there anything else? No, there's nothing else. And when there's nothing else in the global scope, JavaScript goes to the event loop and it asks, hey, I'm done with all my synchronous code. Are there any asynchronous code that I have to run? And the event loop says yes, because you use await on line 11. So these two lines after it are pushed into the event loop. And since now there's no other global stuff to run, please run console.log 4 and console.log 5. So it does just that. Okay. So now let's do something else. What do we call test again? Well, we call test on line 17. It says, oh, these three are synchronous, right? 1, 2, and 3. That has a first await. So we see 1, 2, 3. Then it says, these are async. They push it into the event loop. Exits, sees line 19, console.log global scope. Sees line 20, calls test again. When it calls test again, it sees, oh, 1, 2, and 3 are still synchronous. And then it sees, oh, these 4 and 5s are async. So it pushes the second console 4 and the second console 5 into the event loop. Then it exits line 20 and sees there's nothing left under it. Then it goes to the event loop and says, oh, what do I have to do? Well, I have to console log 4, 5, and then 4, 5 again. Cool, huh?